Good afternoon, everybody. Uh-oh. All right, so I hope you're not tired. So let's get some exercise. So how many token issuers are here? Oh, that's it. That's it. How many on the investor side? So who's the remaining, right? Blockchain companies? All right, so today I'm going to talk about Japan. Obviously, Japan was the first G7 country to regulate cryptocurrencies. It's also the first place that formalized an ICO framework. And I would like to share all of that with you today. But before that, so a quick introduction of myself. Prior to starting Coin, I worked at SoftBank. So I was in charge of SoftBank's Southeast and India operations on partnerships, joint ventures, investments. And prior to that, I worked for a VC fund in the US for close to 10 years. And then before that, I started my career in a Japanese conglomerate. And when I was at SoftBank, and obviously SoftBank is an mobile internet conglomerate, and that's when I knew that with mobile, smartphones, internet, and digital currency, this could completely disrupt the entire financial ecosystem. And that's what brought me to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and blockchain. So what do? We operate a crypto token exchange. We started out from a crypto fiat exchange, and then we went into crypto-only ICO, and we're also launching our blockchain and our cash token. But today, I'd like to talk more about what's going on in Japan. All right. So we operate the world's most advanced exchange, and maybe I can share some numbers with you. So I started this company 4 years ago. So this was before Mt. Gox happened. And we knew at the time that the world needed an exchange that was built by bankers. So somewhere safe, secure, reliable. And when I looked around, there was none. So with my co-founder, I started Coin. And that, a year from there, so 2016 December, we had our largest transaction in the month, and that was 200 million US dollars worth of transaction. And 2 years later, so in 2017 December, we did 31 billion US dollars in transaction. So when you look at that, the amazing growth, and obviously it's gone down. It's about 1/3 from the peak. But that's the case when there's corrections, there's hacks, and all these challenges in the crypto world. But we are also an exchange of exchanges. So we white label, we work with local financial institutions and partners to expand globally, because it's difficult for us to expand by ourselves in each market with regulators, banks, and partners. We also launched an ICO platform. It's a self-service ICO platform and also a crypto-only exchange. Why do we have separate exchanges? Because we comply with regulation. So CoinEx is a crypto fiat exchange, while Cryptos is a ICO and crypto-only exchange. Right. So a little bit of highlight, and I apologize for the Japanese. We are the first global exchange. So we started out in Singapore, but we're the first global exchange to be licensed in Japan. So there were 16 exchanges licensed in Japan last year, September 2017, and we were one of them. Since then, there's been additional 4, and right now in the pipeline, according to the Japan FSA, which is the governing regulatory body in Japan, there's about 90 plus applications in the pipeline. So when you add all that together, there's about 100 exchanges in process to be regulated in Japan. Also, we did the first regulated ICO in Japan last November and raised at that time about 105 million US dollars worth of our cash token in November. And so what is a regulated ICO? Which means prior to a private sale or public sale, we would go to the Japan FSA. By the way, a lot of this today is going to be confidential, and I'm going to share a lot of things that we talk with the FSA and the regulators in Japan, because I think it's a beautiful market. It's a place that everybody should come, but with caution. So we would work with FSA almost every day, talking about our white paper, explaining them how it works, that it's a utility, it's not a security, and once you get that blessing, can you only start your ICO? So we were able to raise our token using Japanese yen, fiat, right? So it wasn't Ethereum or Bitcoin, which we gave the token buyers an option, but the interesting thing was Japanese people bought in Japanese yen. So we believe that with a proper regulated ICO in Japan, that token issuers can raise in fiat in Japan as well. All right, so let's move on. So Japan, the early adopter of Bitcoin. So it's interesting, while China has banned ICOs and exchanges, Japan has actually embraced them. And they've been working for over 2 years to set legislation, do public hearing, and passing the bill. And last April is when they passed the legislation. So now it's a law. So anybody, any token issuer, any exchange who wants to do business in Japan must get a license. And as I explained, there's already 90 plus applications in the pipeline. And it's not enough. It's fundamental. The requirements are you need minimum paid-in capital, you need to have KYC AML compliance, segregation of customer assets, and independent auditor. It's basic, but it's actually quite difficult. A lot of exchanges, they do zero KYC and compliance. They don't do customer asset segregation. And probably the most difficult is getting a third-party auditor. So getting like a big four who have difficulty understanding your business, right? But with this, the Japanese FSA or the Japan FSA is open for business. So what we do is we know that not only crypto services, but public companies, FX companies, online brokerages, they're all starting to offer crypto services to their customers. And the reason why is this is the millennials. When you talk to online brokerages and FX companies in Japan, they said their core customer age group is actually 50s and 60s. They have almost 0, 20s, and 30s, the millennials. And for them, if they don't have access to the millennials, they're going to be out of business in another 10, 20 years. And that's where we provide the entire white label as a platform and also liquidity, right? So we've launched with, so this is a public company in Japan. You can see it has a similar screen, which is a white label of our platform, and this is how we expand. So our company does not need to be a customer brand name. It needs to be on the back end, working with all these financial institutions. And it's not only Japan. So obviously we work with the Gibraltar blockchain exchange. We are the platform that runs all of their exchanges. But going back to Japan, right? So what can you do with cryptocurrency in Japan? I apologize that it's in Japanese. You can pay electricity and utility. This is the largest consumer electronics store in Japan. You can pay with Bitcoin. This is like the Expedia of Japan. You can pay with Bitcoin. One of the fashion department stores in Japan. The Yelp of Japan. So all these places accept Bitcoin. But do they really use it? That's a different question because of the volatility in all those. But the willingness for the entire industry or in Japan to accept crypto is there. Right? And also, Now, banks are keen on issuing their own token. As you know, Rakuten, which is the Amazon of Japan, is thinking about their own token issuance and ICO as well. Until the largest hack happened in Japan. Right? So obviously in 2014, Mt. Gox happened in Japan. And in January 2018, CoinCheck happened. This was $500 million worth of NEM was stolen from their hot wallet, right? So these things, despite putting all these guidelines, have happened to Japan again. So what's happened is the pendulum has swung back, like really turned back at the moment where, as you can read here, the Japanese government sanctioned 7 exchanges. So luckily, we're not one of them. All the entire 90 applications are put on hold. It's essentially delayed. There hasn't been an approval of exchanges this year. All new listing has been stopped. All new listing. And then every ICO is halted, right? So, but that said, to me, I think it's all temporary. So by the time April, May, that might be a little too short. So June timeframe, I think the government will start to loosen up again. And because they've made it very clear that innovation is important, but they want to put some control. So going to the next one, this is what, I can't publish this because this is something the government tells the exchanges is right now, if you're a token issuer interested in the Japanese market, they're saying that the token issuer itself needs to get a license from the Japanese government. And that's almost impossible, right? So the subtle thing is that they're saying that if you work with a regulated and licensed exchange like us, and we give the approval or blessing, then you can do an ICO. But right now, obviously, everything's all halted. And every new listing needs to be whitelisted. What does this mean? So now there's going to be an association for cryptocurrencies in Japan, and they're going to create a whitelist. And if you're not in that whitelist, you cannot list in Japan. So obviously, from an ICO perspective and from a token listing, it's completely going to be under the government oversight. Like for example, when we did our ICO, we did KYC of all of our customers, and actually the government asked us to submit or disclose all the people who bought our token. And in order for these two to happen, they're actually telling us regulated exchanges to have a self-governing organization. So to have an independent body within our company to approve, to then monitor, and if something happens to wait, to delist. So all of these things, the government is actually putting the responsibility and the onus on exchanges. All right. That said, the groundwork for improvement is already set. As you can see, the largest trust bank in Japan, Mitsubishi UFJ Trust Bank, is starting a custodial / escrow trust service. So as part of the customer asset segregation, it's starting only with Bitcoin, but now your asset, when you deposit to exchanges, is now going to be taken care at MUFJ Trust, right? So all of these things to protect customer assets is coming in place. And this is also an interesting survey. I apologize that it's in Japanese, but this was a recent survey this month that we took internally. And when people think of, so the question was, what do you think of cryptocurrency? And they think it's the future. This is change. This is something we build on. This is the currency. This is what you invest in. And these are all younger demographic who think and believe that crypto is the future. This is something they build their future on, and this is the preferred asset class that they invest in. So this was something where there's no word that says speculation or fraud or scam or any of these things. So you can tell that the millennials, the Japanese young generation, the lost generation of the past 20, 30 years actually look at crypto as their future. And so I would like to end my session with a few, just taking a step back. So this was 2013 to 2016. When Mt. Gox happened, the market essentially froze for about 2 years. 2 years, right? But when you look at it from when you add another 3 more years, and this is when the coin check incident happened. Obviously, there was a big ramp up, so there's bound for correction. But people, when you look at the height of Mt. Gox, and it's not even a huge bump when you look at it from a long-term perspective. When you look at another 10 years, 20 years, and where the millennials, when they look at their preferred investment, when they look at their future, obviously, crypto is a big part of that, right? The market is still very early. The Japanese regulators, right now, the pendulum has come back right now. So we do need to be careful. So I don't advise any token issuers or funds to go to Japan and try to market your token to Japanese retail buyers because you will get in trouble. So I would say wait until another 3 months, 4 months, and have the government settle down, and that's probably the right timing. This is from Pantera Capital. I'm using this, so it's not plagiarizing. But this was 2014 when I started my company, right? So the gold market cap right now is still under 8 trillion. So it's only gone up 15% max. While the Bitcoin market cap in 2014 was 6 billion, right? It's now 145. It was close to like 250, but it's 145 as of this morning. Crypto is 335 billion. So when you look at this is only a short period of 3 plus 4 years, and you can see where it's going. All right. So I think the 4 stages of change, where you start from denial, no, like crypto's nothing, and then you want to resist. A lot of countries are still here. They're resisting it. Banks are resisting it. China's resisting it. While Japan is right here, right? Despite the big hacks that they're starting to explore, they're trying to put guidelines, they're trying to put legislation so that this is something that the millennials, the new generation, expect to build their future on. So in closing, and this is something I can never share, but don't mess around with regulators. Just don't mess around, right? Don't mess around with the police. Every day we get inquiries from police. I'm not joking. Like in Japan, the Tokyo police, the Osaka police, they will tell us, hey, coin, do you know this Bitcoin address? Do you know who it belongs to? Because this was an illegal purchase. It bought child porn or drugs. So work with the police. Work with the regulators. The biggest one you need to be aware of is work with the tax authorities. They will come and get you. Like in last year, the biggest entity or government that made money is the tax authorities, right? For example, in Japan, the tax rate for cryptocurrency is 52%. So 52%. And they will come and get you, right? So let's make sure that all of these things, yes, you can be a decentralized exchange. Yes, you can say that, hey, I can't control my customers, but authorities won't budge into that, right? So these are the 3 things, especially when you want to do business in Japan, is to be cognizant about. So with that, get a good lawyer, right? So if you want to do business in Japan, make sure you have a subsidiary, make sure you work with regulators, and all of that, a good law firm can help you out. So with that, thank you so much. And if you need to reach out to me, my email is here. All right, thank you.